Okay. Okay, I'm back. I think I've got this figured out. Anywho, hopefully I'm outside. So I like being outside. And I just got back from church, and it was wonderful. We have this priest at my church. I'm just going to shout it out. It's St. Gertrude's. And he gives these most amazing homilies about whatever the readings are for the week and what we should be like. He does a lot of catechetical, what that means to those people who aren't Catholic or who may not know the terminology that we, somebody who's been, hyper focused on Catholicism for my entire life. we sort of have a vernacular we use, and we assume people know what we're talking about. I think. Well, I do that. I you know I love words. I love the English language, especially. It is it is full of words, wonderful words. You know, I wonder. I wonder. They say Jesus was the word, the truth, and the light. And I wonder if that's the reason, because the word, we use words to impart information and truth. We can use words as weapons. We could use words as soothing agents or meditation, prayer, song, whatever. Point is, words have a lot of great meaning, especially when they're wielded by an expert who is a great homilist. And a homily is a little, talk that a priest will give after all of the readings of the day. So, and Sunday readings usually consist of uh, Old Testament, Psalm, and then a New Testament, um, more like from the letters of St. Paul, for example, to the Corinthians, or those kinds of readings, and then the Gospel, which is almost always, well, is always the words that Jesus has had written down in the New Testament, and then the priest will impart his interpretation as closely as he can to the church's teachings on the gospel. And usually all of the readings along with the psalm is tied together in the homily, basically, is how it works. Well, the homily today was all about the Feast of Corpus Christi, because today in Canada we push it to the next Sunday if it falls through the week. So everybody who has to work outside of the home can participate in these major feast days, and that's of course a major feast day, and it sort of the biggest one of the biggest feast days outside of Easter, the Easter feasts and the Christmas feasts. Anyway, I think I could be wrong. I'm not a priest, not even. I'm not a religious even. I'm just an old lady who loves learning. And the wonderful thing about Catholicism is it's an adventure in learning. Because when you're born in the 60s in Canada, catechetical, that's what catechesis, it's kind of like the structured way of teaching the faith to people who become Catholic and grow up Catholic. And unfortunately, a lot of that was lost because of many reasons in my world, largely because I'm a military brat and had to move to various schools throughout my life. Before high school, it was a total of 10 different elementary schools that I attended all across Canada, from one coast almost to the other. I never did make it to the west coast, like Vancouver, Victoria, those places. we we even had an opportunity to be educated in Germany because my father was supposed to be posted to Germany at some point, but unfortunately he was poisoned, as I keep saying, in Gagetown with Agent Orange, Agent Purple, Agent White, I think it was. Agent Orange, Agent Purple, Agent White, and DDT. He was, when he was a private in the military, he was the dude that was spraying that stuff uh, on everything. So of course he got sick very early on in his military career, which caused him to never be able to advance as far as he always wanted to be able to advance, because he was considered medical, and we weren't allowed. As a direct result of that, we didn't get to enjoy the experience of going to Germany as one of the postings he was slotted to go for, and Cyprus. And they would have been wonderful experiences for children of the military, to, if you were fortunate enough to get posted as a youth to those kind of environments. Always envied anybody who got to go overseas. Anyway, back to it. Today being the Feast of Corpus Christi, for the first time ever, I was able to participate in the procession. Now, most of the world is familiar with Feast of Corpus Christi, and the priest would go with Blessed Sacrament in the monstrance, which is the thing that holds, it looks like a sun, and it holds the the body of Christ, the actual Eucharist, and he holds it above his head, and he processes. Usually, it's, if you lived in a village, it would be around the village streets, but that custom, that was verboten for the most part. Well, it became out of fashion, I would say, during my lifetime, and so I never was able to participate in that during the course of my career as a Catholic in the post-Vatican II era. But I did get to witness it a lot, because there was an old Polish parish that did it, but they did it on the actual feast day. So this week it would have been last Thursday. I think it was last Thursday, which was the actual Feast of Corpus. But this year, our Cardinal, Leo, requested that if all the parishes do the procession. So we got to do it. But we didn't get the permits and everything that you're supposed to apply for and pay for in order to be able to go proceed around it would be nice to have been able to process with the Blessed Sacrament through the streets, because that's the idea. It's a way of standing up for your faith, showing, overtly demonstrating the faith, and actually, the people who are not necessarily in any way interested, it might call it, what is that all about? And they just to make them curious. It's a good idea. I think it was St. Francis who used to say, you just walk through a village. You can do it silently, and you can catechize the village just by the demeanor. Well, I guess that's the principle of the procession of the feast, the body, blood, or the body of Christ throughout the church, just to give everybody that, expose the Blessed Sacrament to the world. And the feeling that comes to somebody who's open to it when exposed to the Blessed Sacrament, particularly when there's a group of faithful who believe that is not just a simple piece of bread, who legitimately believe that, the love, the light shines almost as an aura, I believe, or I feel, whenever, today, for example, when we did that, although we were just doing it in the parking lot, but it was wonderful. And what I found amazing about it was the apartment building next to us, next to the parish, had people come out on the balcony to kind of check out what the hell, what's going on with these nuts next door. And somebody was playing music really loud, and we were just processing. Um, there was some chatter, of course. I'm a chatty Cathy, so I was inappropriately speaking. But Jeffrey, one of my favorite parishioners, got one of those blowhorns and started reciting the rosary. And there was a hymn. And while we were doing that, it was beautiful because the music stopped from the apartment building. And I want to believe, for those moments, the people in that apartment building were experiencing the beauty of community, of people who love God, who are willing to demonstrate their love for God in such a way. And some people might even call it a radical way. And it was beautiful. And I wanted to talk about that today because it's Sunday and we're moving into the summer months, and a lot of even practicing Christians tend to, take it easy during the summer holiday months, especially in North America, to take advantage of their cottages and their vacations and their time with their family, which is beautiful. But that church is there. Jesus is there waiting for you. And that feeling that you can get, just even if you don't believe, the silence, there's a beauty in that kind of silence. And there's a comfort in that kind of silence that, if you're open to it, it's regenerative in many ways. Even if you're an atheist, even if you're somebody who has a negative association with Christianity. And I want to believe that that's the reason why the Muslims are praying in the streets. I want to believe that that's the reason they're doing it. And I want to know why they've been allowed to do it. Disrupting traffic. And blocking even ambulances in Toronto. They even stopped a gay pride parade. I think it was last year on Yonge Street, which to me is a holy thing to do because these gay pride parades are pretty decadent and diabolical, in my opinion. I mean, most gay men that I've ever known in my life don't want to parade with their dicks hanging out in front of children and the world. You know what I mean? Deviant people do. Flamboyant, look at me kind of evil people do. But normal people don't want to do that. And to me, they did a very bad disservice in the last 15 years or so to the gay people of this world. Because that behavior is unacceptable everywhere outside of a private bedroom with two adults. Unacceptable anywhere. Unsafe almost everywhere, including that private bedroom, depending on what you're doing. Just saying. And this is, their month. They get a whole month to do that kind of debauchery in the streets of Toronto and wherever. But the only thing they're inspiring is people anger, disgust. They should be arrested if they're naked, because there used to be laws against that sort of thing. Exposing yourself to children used to get you put in jail, but apparently it doesn't during the month of June on Yonge Street if you're participating in a gay pride parade, which is ridiculous. And I don't know why more people aren't saying that in the public square. I do know that they're hurting for money these days, so good. They should be hurting for money. Nobody's trying to hurt you people. You guys are the ones trying to hurt us. Nobody's infringing on your rights, but you guys are infringing on our rights. And we're not trying to insult your children with male and female genitalia, breasts, naked, right? We don't do that. That's used to be against the law. Acts of public lewdness and sex, copulation, it used to be against the law in Canada. I think it should still be. Don't do that. If you're gay, I don't care. You're not under any persecution in Canada. You're persecuting everybody else. Maybe you should stop doing that, those of you that do that. The rest of you, I'm really sorry that these people are giving you such a hard, bad reputation. It's not right. But anyway, the Muslims who are praying in the streets, just try to remember what a privilege it is to get to do that, especially in Canada. It's against the law in any Muslim land to try to convert somebody into anything other than Islam. I think there was one lady, a Canadian lady brought over from India, I think it was, or Pakistan, who was converting to Catholic Christianity, and her life was in danger because of it. You folks, some of these people that have taken over the streets of our cities in Canada, a Catholic country, Christian country, think it's okay to kill Christians, and have been killing Christians for the last, ever since they became into existence. If you're one of those kind of people, why can't you just go to a country that, well, at least respect the country you're in? Please. Try to appreciate the fact that for some reason you're privileged to be able to conduct your prayers on Main Street in Toronto and hold up all kinds of traffic and pedestrians and death to Canadians and killed Americans and all that nonsense that has been chanted in our streets, and the persecution of the Jewish communities. Jewish people aren't responsible for what's been happening in Israel. Jewish people, who are faithful people, are good people. There are evil people who say they're Jews that are doing really evil things on behalf of Judaism because they've got the right to exist as Israel. Well, Jesus came from heaven to earth to explain to those guys, don't do that. You're not supposed to do that. He's the fulfillment of Judaism. That's what I believe. That's what Catholics believe. That's why we love our Jewish brothers and sisters. Christianity is a fulfillment of Judaism. I believe right down into the stomach. So I love my Jewish brothers and sisters, and I love my Islamic brothers and sisters. I even love the ones who are trying to kill each other. And I'm praying for them to stop doing that. And for them to see the way that God set forth in front of them. And those prayers have value, especially when you're trying to connect to God. And you can feel Him. He's in the very atmosphere when you pray. And you pray. You ask any drug addict or down on their luck person or street person, they know. They know God intimately. So I guess that's my message for today, the Feast of Corpus Christi. And I wanted to shout out to my parish priest, Father Louis. I think it's Father Louis. If I've got your name wrong, I'm sorry. I don't want to divulge too much, just in case I get into trouble for the things that I say. People come looking for me and my church to destroy these beautiful people. But I have been silenced my whole life. And that's gotten me into a prison of sorts. Because when you're silent, when your gut tells you not to be, it's wrong to be silent. And it's especially wrong to try to hide your faith under a bushel. If you're a believer, believe. Particularly if it's in love, justice, truth, joy of your fellow man, the other before yourself, and God above all else. And you can't go wrong. You can't. I don't believe so. It makes me, what do the Jewish people call it? Verklempt? Is it verklempt? Dana Carvey used to do, or was it Mike Myers? One of them on Saturday Night Live used to do the church lady thing or the Jewish lady thing, and it was funny. But tears of joy and love are good tears to cry, in my opinion. I don't tear out of my eyeballs because they're dry as a bone. Do out of my nose. So that's why it's always running. Anyway. Oh, also, YouTube. I wanted to endorse and shout out a couple of channels because apparently in Canada, the Canadian podcasters aren't supporting their fellow podcasters. There's like probably, competition and all that nonsense happens, right? And it's not like YouTube is going to be very, well, if Mr. Carney has his way, there will be nothing on YouTube that's out of Canada that isn't a lie in the near future. So support your Canadian podcasters, please, particularly in Canada if you're Canadian, because they're struggling. Jasmine Lane has a podcast. She's a professional reporter and she's really good. And for political news, and you need to, if you're not political, get political because you need to know what's going on. Our rights are slowly but surely being eliminated. And once our rights are to speak out, and we won't, some of us may not have the right to live. I know it's ridiculous to think of that in Canada, but it's true, and it's a real concern, especially if you are disabled, mentally ill, elderly, or sick. It's true. You may not have the right to live in Canada for very much longer. I I mean, there are a lot of countries that we've ignored in this wonderfully privileged society that was created by Christians. Oh, 100 July 1st is our Independence Day, Dominion Day, whatever you want to, or not Dominion Day, Canada Day. We weren't allowed to celebrate it during the pandemic because of Mr. Justin Trudeau. But the reason we weren't allowed to celebrate it, it's never really been clear to me. But that's when the laws were changed in Canada that made it legal to kill people, deny people the truth, and force them to have a medical intervention that they didn't want in the form of a vaccination that was proven to be dangerous, more dangerous than the disease it was trying to prevent. That COVID debacle, manufactured problem, that the hearings in the United States that Dr. John Campbell's channel is trying to call people's attention to, that happened, that has it all laid out for everybody to see exactly how much was known, when it was known, and why it was kept secret, and how complicit the American CNN, CBS, ABC, all those mainstream news media networks were complicit to perpetuate a lie. Well, in Canada, they've been perpetuating a lie in media from its inception. From its very inception. Because we were never a free country. From our beginning, we were a commonwealth. And who's running Great Britain right now? Seems like whoever's running the show there wants British people to die by machetes and knives, rape and murder of all the new people that came in who are designed to replace them. That's what it looks like anyway, if you care to notice. I started taking notice of what was going on in the rest of the world way back in Iraq, when all the Christians and a lot of Muslims were being murdered by ISIS. And nobody was saying anything about that. When you stand silent and you say, that's okay, it's not happening to me, it's not affecting my life, it's going to affect your life. They'll always come for you next. You're in queue waiting, your turn. And that's what's happening in this world we live in right now. And Canada is gone. Canadians are gone. But for a moment, the Holy Spirit was in our parking lot of our church today. And that feeling that comes to people who are faithful, who are full of love and peace and joy and compassion and community and family come together. They create wonderful things that evil wants to destroy. Anyway, Jasmine Lane, watch her. She's amazing. Dr. John Campbell is reporting about the hearings that are taking place. Public. Everything's public now. You just have to know where to look. Canadians, get off your behinds and take a look at what you fell for when all of our churches were closed for years and we weren't allowed to receive Holy Communion. We weren't allowed to receive even confession, except for over the phone. I had to phone in my confession. I'm not kidding. I wasn't allowed to be at church. I wasn't vaccinated. I had to give up all my ministries. I wasn't vaccinated. I'm still alive because I wasn't vaccinated. Think about that. I believe it's true. And Mr. Justin Trudeau followed the science. Safe and effective nonsense lie. you need to be under a jail somewhere. And everybody that served in that parliament that did that, that's you, Mr. Polyev, too. How many of you people voted against the World Health Organization's demand that the Canadian people be locked down? How many? Which one of you parliamentarians at that time stood up and said no? And no, those people who wouldn't allow a woman to carry a baby there because they wouldn't force any medical intervention, like forcing a woman to carry a baby to term, and she's in her last trimester of pregnancy. Those people? Oh, it's okay for her to kill that baby. Let's intervene with that medical procedure because she wants it. What about all the women who were carrying babies who wanted to deny the vaccine that risked the life of that baby that was unborn? And many of those babies did die. Many of those women are now sterile. Many of those men are having difficulties conceiving. Provable. Research, science, Mr. Justin Trudeau. Follow the science, follow the science. Anyway, Dr. John Campbell's been reporting the science, the true science, and now the attack on research that's taking place all over this world in order to stop people from finding out the truth about what the doctors are being mandated to force into the body of their patients. Just saying. And those of you who took more than one or two of those shots, you might want to see a cardiologist to tweet. Because if you didn't die within the first year, chances are you've got some problems in your future, cardiac-wise, according to these scientific research that's taken place in other countries, not Canada. Because, Canadian people need to die. Canadian-born especially. Carney can't get away with what he wants to do for his globalist movement with those of us who know better. And there's an awful lot of us still alive and kicking who are willing to look and say something. Anyway, Jasmine Lane, Clinton Jaws. He's got an American and a Canadian channel. He wants Canadians to go to his Canadian-based channel. Do. But also look at his American channel, too, and subscribe. Clyde Do Something. I've endorsed him before, but always. Anyway, Clyde and Clinton Jaws had a wonderful live conversation on Clyde Do Something's channel on Friday evening. If you've got a minute, watch it, because Clinton Jaws is hysterical, and Clyde is hysterical too. And see what CBC did to our CMP retirees. CBC. What's her name? Rosemary? Really? Rosemary? What is wrong with you? How come you hate people so much? What's wrong with you? Why do you hate normal people? Are they really paying you enough to lie? Lie with the hate that you seem to exude every time you report on a conservative? You really hate the truth that bad? What lies are you got that you're trying to keep hidden? Perhaps the lie that you went along to get along and get paid. No conscience in you at all, eh? Rosemary of CBC and that other bald-headed little person. Little man syndrome, I know. It's a disease that affects a lot of men, unfortunately. It happened sometime around when the women's liberation movement started, and men were told they weren't allowed to be masculine anymore. I think. I could be wrong. Maybe little men were always really stupid. I don't know. But that guy that's also a reporter on CBC, Grow a conscience and grow a pair. Do the right thing. Tell the truth. Tell the truth. That's what the CBC was supposed to do. Not indoctrinate. Not to propagandize. Not to brainwash. Tell the freaking truth. Anyway, I always go on that tangent, even though I'm a sinner. Forgive me, please. I'm a human being. And I think it's a sin to be silent. My husband tells me to shut up all the time. All the time. I got to a point where I couldn't speak to him without yelling. Because he can't listen to me anymore. I can't blame him. I'm trying to get myself back. And I see hope. I just wish I could see it more often. I do every time I go to church. And I suggest anybody out of their faith, reconnect with your faith community. They're good, loving people, no matter what kind of faith community they are, as long as they're not preaching kill somebody, hurt somebody, destroy somebody. They're probably good. And they're of God. Good is from God, bad is from evil and Satan. Simple as that. Easy rules of life to live by. Anyway, I love you. Do unto others as you'd have done unto you, and have a blessed day. I love you all. Have a good day. Goodbye.